Hi, I'm Shirley Meisels, and I'm the founder of W House, and I'm here to share all the wisdom that I've learned over the last 22 years as an interior designer in Toronto. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the real cost of good design that your client needs to know. The real cost of good design is clearly hiring the best team possible. There are no shortcuts in luxury design, so having a designer, having a great builder, having an architect if you need one, that is paramount. So I'm going to share a story with you that I have. There is a client who thought that they could contract the project on their own. They had renovated a condo, they'd done a bathroom and a kitchen, I think, and they bought an older home in Toronto, and older homes are always super difficult and tricky. And they had builder friends who they were able to lean on to get trades and ask questions. And they had me. I usually never take on a project that doesn't have a builder, but they were able to talk me into it. They were nice people and I wanted to help them. So they thought that they could contract this house on their own. And boy, did they have a steep learning curve. There were so many mistakes, so many things that had to be redone, and what should have been really about a 9-month renovation has turned into a 14-month renovation. And so now all the money that they've saved by not hiring a proper builder, they're spending on rent, they're spending on redos, not to mention the stress and all the time that it's taking away from their full-time jobs. This is not what they do. They should have hired a builder from the get-go. Well, now we're in the 11th hour and they've surrendered. They're having one of their builder friends step in and take over the rest of the project. Thank goodness, because it has been a little bit of a nightmare, I have to say. Normally, it's not the type of project I would take on, but they were friends of mine and so I wanted to help them out. But ultimately, there are no shortcuts. Your clients need to know and understand that there's a certain way to do things, and it's far more complicated than it looks. You want to make sure that your clients understand the value of hiring you as a professional and perhaps a contractor that you'll be bringing onto the project. There are no shortcuts. It will cost them more in the end, and that's certainly something that you can tell them. You should be advising your clients to always have a contingency of about 10 to 20%, because with builds and renos, you never know what's going to happen. There are always surprises, and that will ensure that they stay within their budget. I have a few things that I advise my clients to set aside some budget for that they might not have thought of on their own. Make sure that they understand that their landscaping is likely going to get either destroyed or at least disturbed. There's a lot of general wear and tear on the exterior of the home during a reno project. So I advise my clients to keep some money set aside to replace anything that needs to be redone at the end of the project. So a big one is hidden surprises behind walls, especially in older homes. One of my first homes was a Victorian in downtown Toronto, and at the time, I was very young, we bought it as a flip. And so we moved in, everything's beautiful, until the first flood. Water started coming down the walls in the basement, and we couldn't figure out where it was from. When we called somebody out, they literally cut through the wall, and there was an entire room that had just been drywalled over, and behind was crumbling original brick foundations. And so we had to rebuild the entire foundation at the back of the house, and we had no idea that that was what we were buying. So the same would apply to a renovation. You have no idea what's behind your walls. Make sure you've got some money aside for those bizarre surprises, because there will always be one. When you're working on a larger reno or a build, the builder should have a line item in their budget for professional cleaning. But if you're doing a smaller reno, let's say it's a kitchen and a bathroom, clients need to understand that dust and debris get everywhere. It's really pervasive, and the whole home needs to be cleaned, not just the spaces that you've been working on. So to hire a professional detailing team for your home can take hours, and the fees can really add up. So that's a really important one to keep in mind, especially because it's at the end of the project. And usually by then, the budget's pretty drained. So it's a good idea to inform your clients of that reality early on. So this happens on just about every project I've worked on, and that is clients changing their minds. And it might be something like changing their mind on a light fixture, or framing a room, or a door swing, or some kind of detail. When they change their minds about these things, well, the light's already been roughed in for our original choice. Now they want to change, which means we have to call the electrician back. There might be some drywall patching, there might be some paint patching, not to mention design fees, because we're redoing something we've already done. So that is something that your client should be aware of. Any change is going to cost them extra. Scope creep is a big one, especially with renovations. So my experience has been that sometimes clients will try to save money, understandably, by keeping certain elements of the home intact. So let's say it's a bathroom. This bathroom's fine. We're not going to touch it, but let's do everything else on the floor. And so once the project begins and they start to see everything be installed and how stunning everything is, all of a sudden that bathroom that they were going to keep is no longer up to snuff. And they want to add that in later on in the project. And that's an extra cost because now our bathrooms are almost complete. Now we have to start again, and we have to bring the plumber back, and we have to bring the tiler back. And there's an extra cost to all of that. There is certainly an economy of scale when you can do all of it at once. It's important to let your client know before any changes what the cost implications are going to be. They have to be aware of it and sign off before you move forward, even with your time. Clients will often have an idea of what it is they want to spend. That doesn't mean that that's all the money they have to spend. It's just what they want to spend. So they might start off with a scope here, trying to contain the budget, but then they get really into it, and all of a sudden all of their nice to haves would become part of their must haves, so they start adding things to the scope. You can't really plan ahead for that, but what you can do is stop and let them know what the cost implications are, both for your time and for the finishes and what it is that they're requesting. Get them to sign off first so that they understand. Sometimes there are costs in a project that you have no control over. And so it might be something like tariffs or quotes expiring if the client takes too long to approve. So I like to make sure that my clients are informed very early on that we need timely answers and that we have no control over price increases. Similarly with design fees, we have some projects, we're working on very large projects now that can last 3 years. And so wages can go up, like an average wage goes up over 3 years. So we have in our contract that if the project lasts X amount of time, that our fees may rise as well. A few years back, there is a furniture brand that we had ordered tons of pieces from for several projects. And right in the middle of our projects, I think there were like 3 or 4 of them, the brand folded and they shuttered all of their stores and all of their manufacturing. So we lost so much of our furniture. Thankfully, we were able to get our money back, but we had to reselect everything from scratch. And it wasn't my fault. And so we ended up charging extra design fees. It's not the client's fault either, but it's sort of just one of those things that happened. I know it's always hard to talk to people about money, but it's a really important conversation to have. As uncomfortable as it is one of their biggest investments, and people are very emotional at this time. So having those difficult chats up front are really, really important and a must, an absolute must. I want to really thank you for watching. And I'm super interested in knowing if you've experienced the same kinds of hurdles or budget constraints, and any tips or stories you have to share, let me know.